Hi there, I'm Chris Kelly, founder and CEO of KnowledgePay Incorporated, the premier source for integrated compensation intelligence. And welcome to this week's episode of Solving Real HR Problems Using Compensation Software. In this week's episode, we're going to be focused in on an organization that was experiencing unwanted turnover in their information technology organization, and how we use the KnowledgePay compensation software to help facilitate a better organizational analysis that allowed them to save a boatload of money and also increase the employee engagement within that team. In fact, we're able to demonstrate how we were able to achieve over a 300% return on investment in the first year alone. Now, as is the case with all of our weekly series, we do need to change the names to protect the confidentiality of our clients. However, the purpose of our weekly series is to demonstrate for you how you can use compensation software to improve the value that you contribute to your organizations to become a better strategic partner and improve the performance of your businesses. So let's walk through some slides and what we experienced in this particular case study.
We should start by giving you some background information on the scenario. We were working with a mid-sized organization that was experiencing roughly 20% turnover in their IT department. Now, granted, this was not a huge organization. I believe they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 employees in their IT function, but still, 20% turnover was rather annoying when it was happening year in and year out. Now, the IT director insists that the cause of the turnover was pay-related. Of course, that's everybody's first solution. So he was proposing that we come up with a 10% market adjustment budget. The HR director, however, wanted to look more closely at some of the background information, and what she did was pulled some data from their HR system to look at some of the reason for leaving codes, as well as gathering up some of the exit interview notes that they had. One of the things that she noticed right away was that there was a theme that was starting to emerge around some of the feedback for the reasons why people were leaving was more related to career opportunities and not so much about pay. So as we got engaged, one of the first things we did was we generated a report for the Human Resources Director. This is one of our standard reports out of the KnowledgePay compensation software system. And what this report was able to show was that we had within the IT function, we had the different disciplines within the IT function of application development, database management, networking, and enterprise architecture. And then we had the array of the grades going down on the left-hand side. And what we were showing here is the jobs that were in each discipline and at what levels. So we had the programmer, senior programmer analyst, we had a database administrator, networking administrator or analyst, we had the enterprise architect over here. And these were the bulk of the positions that existed within the IT function. We had two management jobs as well as then a higher level IT director. What the graphs are showing is from the range minimum to the midpoint and then up to the maximum, and then the star indicates what the average pay is for the incumbents that are in that job. What we were also able to pull for the HR director was some background information as to where the labor market was. Where were we attracting people to come into the roles? And typically what we were finding is that the majority of the time we were filling this programmer job from the outside, but we were hiring either fresh grads with some very low-level experience, internships, co-ops, maybe one other job somewhere else. And this is a good rationale or explanation as to why the average pay was somewhere between the range minimum and the midpoint, because most often we were able to hire people at or near the range minimum. The senior programmer analyst, however, we were able to fill the majority of those from within. 76% of the time we were filling them from typically from the programmer spot, and a quarter of the time we were going to the outside and bringing in some outside talent. And there was also a longer tenure in this job. The people had significantly more years of experience in this role, and this again reasonably explains why we were paying at or close to the range midpoint for this job. The database administrator role was 40% of the time being able to fill it from internally. There was a handful of times we were able to promote somebody from the programmer role over here or laterally transfer somebody from the senior programmer analyst job. But the majority of the time, 60%, we were going to the outside and bringing in some experienced individuals. And again, this explains pretty well why we were able to hire at or close to the range midpoint. The enterprise architects, however, have all been external hires. This is a role that was created 5 or 6 years ago, and we were needing to bring in some people that had some much higher level skills, and we were always going to the outside. And what we were finding is that the bulk of the time when we were bringing in these people from the outside, we were hiring them significantly above the range midpoint, and also it was taking us considerably longer to fill those roles. Now, the turnover that we mentioned before, the 20% turnover for the IT function, was happening in almost always. It was in these three jobs: the senior programmer analyst, the database administrator, and the enterprise architect. That first report we were looking at was a great example of how we were able to look at an organizational analysis from a macro view. Now it was time to drill down and to look at some of the job details and get into the nuts and bolts of what the duties, responsibilities were, as well as what the requirements were. What was it that we were expecting in terms of the job design? So I'm going to log into the KnowledgePay application where we can do this sort of drill down analysis and reporting. I'm logging into the demo company here, and we have a lot of different information that's coming up on the screen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the job data link because we want to do job analysis. And I'm going to limit the list of jobs that we're going to be looking at just to the IT functional area. I click on the filter, and this limits the list of jobs just to the IT family. I'm going to go ahead and start by looking at the senior programmer analyst. And what comes up when I click on that job link is a job description, some demographic information up at the top. We've got the functional description, the job summary, as well as then the more detailed duties and responsibilities. We can also go look at what are the scope of requirements, and then the actual job requirements in terms of education and experience levels. We also have available to us some additional analysis details. Again, this is a great example of how having all of the job analysis and evaluation information centrally stored, easily accessible in a very intuitive fashion will help facilitate the efficiency and effectiveness of the HR person trying to do this sort of analysis and reporting. Speaking of reporting, I'm going to go ahead and click on this reporting link, and let's take a look at a summary report. If we click on this link here, we have a report already built for the IT functional analysis, and it brings back the 6 different jobs within the IT family, and we've got the years of experience in the professional experience, the functional area, as well as then what the educational levels are. And it was when we were looking at this particular report with the HR director that the observation was made in terms of the level of experiences required at the programmer and senior programmer level, and what does it take to jump all the way up to the enterprise architect level. And this was where it was such a big gap in terms of experience requirements, both educationally as well as professionally in terms of years of experience, both professionally and within the functional area. So what we were able to show you so far is that the HR director started off looking at a very macro look at the IT organization in that whole family function level report that we showed. She was then able to drill down into the job details of each of those jobs within the IT organization and look at the duties, responsibilities, and requirements and so on. And then also run some summary reports to be able to look for themes and trends. By doing all those things, she was able to quickly and easily pull together recommendations that she was able to work back with the IT director and implement. What they did was they created a new job that was 1 level higher than the current senior programmer analyst and DBA. This job was something that was put together as a hybrid role that combined some aspects of both applications development as well as database design. This allowed them to have a career level step up for people that were in those lower level jobs, and allowed them to create a feeder pool for the enterprise architect so that they were not always in a spot where, first of all, they always had to go outside and take a longer time to hire people, as well as they were able to not necessarily always have to pay above the range midpoint. Additionally, they were able to identify some duties in the job analysis of the enterprise architects that if they were to strip those activities out of the enterprise architect responsibilities, they were able to actually reduce the number of headcount of the enterprise architects by 1 and go from 3 down to 2 to be able to fund this additional position. So the new architect or the new structure then looked like this. We added the new role that was one step up, and again it was a hybrid role between the application development and database. And again, the purpose being that it created a career path at the lower level, also created a feeder pool for the enterprise architect role. The financial impact was huge. We were able to show $160,000 a year in reduced turnover. This comes from having documented cost of turnover being 150% of annual salary. This comes from not only the advertising and recruiting costs, but also the lost productivity when a position is open, and particularly at that enterprise architect level, where in the past it was taking as much as 7 months to fill an open position. There was an incredible amount of lost productivity that was happening there. Additionally, what we were able to see was that we were able to reduce the turnover by 50% in the first year. No way to know for sure if that turnover reduction is going to be sustained over time. However, the indications are very good that we are going to be able to have lower turnover on a go-forward basis. Also, we were able to show a $25,000 a year in reduced payroll expense by the new staffing model. Having that one higher level position was still significantly less, $25,000 a year less than having 3 enterprise architects by reducing the 1 from that headcount. Not to mention that the alternative that was initially being proposed from the IT director was approximately $150,000 total market adjustment budget. In the end, because of the HR director's ability to do this sort of analysis, instead of spending an additional $150,000, she was actually able to show that she could save $185,000 with this new career framework that they were able to put in place. Anecdotally, we also had the IT director come back and indicate that the workforce was better engaged, higher productivity, because they felt more of an opportunity to get ahead within the organization. Unfortunately, we didn't have good baseline measures in place to be able to track what financial impact did that higher workforce engagement contribute to the bottom line, but I'd be willing to bet that it was in the neighborhood of every bit as much as this $160,000 reduced turnover. So the conclusions from all this is having a powerful and intuitive compensation software system transformed the HR director's ability to take scattered data that typically had been in many different systems and formats and hard to ever get her arms around, and transform that into focused intelligence. She was able to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the HR organization, being able to do this analysis fast and effective from the standpoint of being able to save $185,000 versus spending $150,000 just in the market adjustments. And really help facilitate the role of human resources in this organization to be viewed as a strategic business partner by being able to offer up a more intelligent solution that is going to be more beneficial to the organization. Really helped add to the credibility of what role HR plays for that organization. If you'd like to learn more about how KnowledgePay can help you become more effective in your organization, please contact us by email at info@knowledgepay.com or by phone at 630-524-5818. Stay tuned for more in our series of how to solve HR problems using compensation software. I'm Chris Kelly. Thank you.